Started. We gotta get going. What's going on, everybody? What's going on tonight? Long week, long days, especially for me. We took a crazy L last weekend. It was rough travels. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. But we here now. So let's tap in. First off, welcome to 60 for 60 show. It's a podcast, kind of a talk show type of thing where we talk about everything semi-pro. Don't really matter. If it's semi-pro football, we got to talk about it. I'm the host, Morris Hilton. Been around for a long time. I'm just a guy that plays football for fun. Went to Iona Prep, went to Nassau Community College, played semi-pro since 2015, I think. Right now in the IFA, Independent Football Association, playing with the CT Falcons. Great football league, man. A great spring league. Most fun I think I've had in a long time. Also playing the ECFL, which is the largest semi-pro league in the country in the summer. I think over 30 teams. Play with the Southern Valley Vipers there. Tonight, we're going to have kind of like an open conversation. A lot of things happening in the IFA. We're going to talk about it all. Sponsorships. As you can see, we're always looking for partners, trying to build a network, right? For teams, for athletes, for fans, a way for everybody to connect. If you're interested in becoming a partner, affiliate, just hit me up on Facebook. You can hit me up my email, morris.hilton@ml.com. Call me 914-573-8691. Doesn't matter. You want to get your brand out there. You want to partner with an athlete, with a team, and we do it all. All right, let's move on to the horn. Let's talk about what's going on. New 3A national rankings came out. 2A national rankings came out. There was a lot of movement. New Jersey unit took a L. They kind of dropped off a little bit. They're still up there, though, top 15. That's the big team from the Northeast to talk about. The Louisiana Hurricanes, they jumped up. They were like a middle top 10 team. Now they're the top team to beat. Sumpter Sharks is sitting comfortable at number 2. I would find it hard not to see them back. They won the national championship earlier in the year. It got postponed. They ended up playing earlier in the year. They won it. Could see them going back. The TUFL, you got the Virginia Cyclones out of the MLF, Woodland Tigers out of MLF. Not the same MLF that we're used to in the Northeast, a little bit different league. Looking at the 2A rankings, Chattanooga Eagles is still up there, man. They're still the number 1 team in 2A. For anybody that doesn't understand, the 3A is the highest level. 2A is the level right behind it as far as pro football is concerned. More has to do with how organizations are ran, more so than the level of competition, although there is a step up in the level of competition in 3A. You'll just find that the teams are a little bigger, the organizations are run a little more well. Long Island Eagles, top team out of the Northeast. They're a top 10 team. They're definitely going to be in the conversation for the national championship. CT Falcons was in this conversation at 21. We took a loss, so we might drop down after this. Vernon Bangers is another team in the same league as the Long Island Eagles. They just played each other. The Bangers lost that game, so they're going to be 4-3 at this point. They're probably going to fall off the rankings list as well. The Baltimore Saints in that ECFA, I think that's the next closest league as far as 2A is concerned. The Baltimore Saints are really balling. There's a lot of teams in Baltimore that are actually really good. It's a very tough league. The AFA is also a super tough league in the East Coast. The Virginia Storm are killing it. I got some clips from them going to throw in the top 25. Not top 25, sorry, the top 10 plays. That should be coming out tomorrow afternoon on the YouTube page. So that'd be pretty cool. Virginia Silverbacks, pretty good team. CT Falcons actually talking about maybe potentially playing them or another Virginia team in that area next year. So that'd be a pretty cool game to start the year off next year. All right. This is kind of the whole topic of the show today. This is really like the whole topic of the show. IFA, a lot of stuff happened. A lot of stuff happened. So we had the Cardinals were supposed to go play in Brooklyn against the New York Crusaders. That didn't happen. Some controversy there. We're going to talk about that. Luckily, we got David Patterson, commissioner here. He's probably going to shine a light on that a little bit. CT Falcons lost to the Warhawks. Lost in a big way, too, 40-13. Horrible. We're going to talk about that game a little bit. The Cardinals haven't played a game in a little while. And if you take a look, the top two teams have played 6 games. The Cardinals only played 4. They're 2 games behind. But when you look at the points, they're only 50 points or 45 points off the Warhawks. So they play the Bearcats this weekend at number 4. The Bearcats are just kind of quietly there. Like, they played the Warhawks, they lost. But it was a close game, closer than the Falcons game at least. They hung in there, even with their offense not being quite as good as they were last year. Defense really a lot stronger than people think. They're just hanging out in there, and they have a chance at beating the Cardinals, especially because the Cardinals got to travel to them. Patriots also, they suffered a loss. Rest in peace to Coach D, who's a fundamental part of football in the Harlem, North Bronx area, especially in semi-pro. They had to take some time off to kind of deal with that. If you know about the Patriots schedule, they got a lot going on. So they're 2-2, but they're not a 2-2 team. Let's be honest. That's a very, very good football team. They actually got better as the season went along. Kind of moved some pieces around, put some guys in certain roles to kind of pick the team up. They picked up some players. They got some really good players on defense, some guys that are just ballers, guys that play in the TFL that are now playing with us in the IFA. Really good football team. So that's a kind of weird one right there. Mass charges. So there was a post that the Mass Chargers put out that they said, wow, we made it to we clinched the playoffs. We made it in. We're going to talk about that. We're going to chat about that. Hopefully we get some Chargers to come on tonight and have a little conversation with us. New York Crusaders, 1-4. They haven't beat anybody in the IFA, but they're in the playoff picture. And Queen Huskies, 0-6. They forfeited their last game. I don't know. Maybe they quit on the season. Not sure. They didn't fold officially, but I think they're done. And we know that the machine folded earlier in the season. So kind of an update on the stats. Just some things to point out here is just that those Warhawks, man, 212 points over. I mean, they outscored their opponents as a whole by 212 points. That's crazy. I mean, it might go down as one of the most dominant seasons ever. Like, they really dominated from start to finish. And the crazy thing is they're doing it with their backup quarterback. For the main part, their main guy went down when they played the Cardinals early in the season. Cardinals is there with 104 point spread. They're just doing their little thing. But, one of the things to look at is we talk about, like, top defenses. The Warhawks average 5.6 points allowed a game. Kind of just creepily there, being one of the best defenses. But when you also look at the Bearcats, they've given up the least points allowed, but their average is actually one of the highest averages in the league. So not one of the highest, but they're kind of in the middle of that. Like, they're a top team, but they're not that team as far as averages are concerned. Just total points allowed. And if you let a Bearcat tell you they have not let up a touchdown to an offense all season, I think, except for the Warhawks, and that's understandable, high-power offense. But when you look at the other side, we had this conversation about the Crusaders and the Chargers. Look at the points allowed. Crusaders gave up a lot less points, but they also played less games than the Chargers. So when you look at the averages, the Chargers are actually a better team by averages. They average almost the same amount of points, but they give up just a little less. And we were talking about having a potential playoff mix-up. So we're gonna chat about that in a little bit too. Let's move on. I don't have a lot of information out of the TFL or the NEAFL, so we kind of just gonna do with what we have. I think this is accurate. I cannot be sure. I really don't know. So it'd be nice if somebody from the TFL jumps on, kind of informs us about what's going on. But as far as I know for sure, Long Island Eagles beat up on the Mount Vernon Bengals bad. The last score that I got was 20-zip. I don't know what the final score was. The Bengals might have scored on them, but I know from start to finish, the Eagles just dominated. The Bengals had to go to Long Island. It wasn't pretty. Actually, Prince Ream, the quarterback, he's got a lot of highlights. Mims went up and got a nice little toe tackle on the sideline. There was a lot of trash talking going on, kind of crazy. The Eagles are that team. They really are. Very good football team. I think the Ducks won their game. I think the Bulldogs won their game. I think the Green Wave lost, and the Bengals haven't gotten a win yet. Hopefully, I can get some information on that. We're talking about it maybe next week if nobody pops on. No information out of the NEAFL. I'm pretty sure, I'm almost certain that the NEAFL is going into their playoffs. I'm going to try to get some more information and really clear that up for next week. The game to watch out of the IFA for me is East Coast Cardinals against the New England Bearcats. Cardinals got to go to the Bearcats. It's going to be 4 p.m. at Waterhouse Field in Biddeford, Maine. If you're in that area, go check that game out. It's going to be fireworks, that's for sure. I think the Cardinals got a lot to prove. One of the pots that I stirred kind of was the Cardinals getting the full A's, the 3 A's, and the defense is really the thing lagging. So kind of put it out to them, like, go and shut them out. If you shut them out, there's nothing nobody can say. So Cardinals are definitely going to come out and fire on all cylinders. They're going to try to, beat the Bearcats into submission and really just say, like, we're that team. We really are that team. We're the number 1 team. At the same time, the Bearcats are going to put up a fight. They're really going to try to show that they are the defending champs for a reason, and they are a championship caliber team still. Doesn't matter about the Warhawks. Doesn't matter about the Cardinals. We're still here. So that's pretty cool. All right, let's get into a little bit of football conversation. I like to start off the show with a little football talk. One of the things that I try to talk about is the differences between higher levels of play and semi-pro. And in the run game specifically, one of the things that we do not see in semi-pro very often is something it used to be a huge part of semi-pro, and it's no longer part of semi-pro, and I think it has to do with the era that we're playing in, is the counter and trap run game. So today we're going to talk a little bit about trap. It's a very effective running play. It's a tough play to run, but if you can pull it off, very successful, high success rate. It's the type of play that you can't use that frequently. It's not like an every down run play unless you've got some dogs on the offensive line, and then you really could run trap or counter every single play. But it's the type of play that if you set it up properly, like, it's a home run. Now, I'm going to break the play down for you very simply. We're looking at a spread look. So the call would be spread. The 2 back is a running back. 25, the hole is the 5 hole. You count them from the center going out. So on the left, you got odd numbers. On the right, you got even numbers. The H is a receiver, halfback kind of player. He's a dual threat type of guy. He's going to crack down on that W. That W is a linebacker. That's the will linebacker. On the other side, you've got the Sam. The Sam can also be somewhat of like a nickelback type of linebacker, a little quicker guy. He's going to be on the strong safety side, kind of help out and pass protection most times. He's also going to be a blitzer a lot of times, faster guy, lighter guy. That H is going to crack down on that will. That Y is just going to kind of get upfield, try to distract that sandbacker for a little bit. The guard is going to release to the inside. He's going to go get that middle linebacker. Tackle's going to wash down the what looks to be 4 technique. You got a defensive end there, so this is a 4 front, 40 front. They're going to leave that play side end uncovered. That guard is going to pull, kick that end out. Running back's going to take a step or two towards the quarterback, take the ball, cut back immediately, and he's going to crease inside that guard. This is a very effective running play, even out of the shotgun. You typically don't see trap too much out of the shotgun, out of the spread, but it's very effective to look at this play now because most teams are running their offenses out of the spread. Not a lot of quarterbacks are under the center. Mostly now you see pistol. Even in the NFL, you see a lot of pistol. I think that one of the reasons that we don't see this in semi-pro too often is simply because guards and semi-pro aren't as athletic. In the NFL, that guard is pretty quick for a guy his size, and he can get to that end very fast. Another reason is that although the ends in the NFL and college are very extremely athletic, I mean, these dudes are fast as lightning. They're big, strong guys. They're not like receivers or corners. In semi-pro, you see a lot of defensive ends that are wide receiver size. They're like corner size. They're safeties that are playing end. And that speed difference is just very hard to deal with for offensive line. So you don't really see the trap too often. I personally feel like we should see a lot more trap in semi-pro. One of the issues is that we don't coach the game at the semi-pro level to its integrity. We coach the game based on what we see. And one of the things that I was always told when I was coming up is never play to the talent level that you're going against. Play at your level. Execute on your job, right? Don't go out there and because that guy is smaller than you play lackadaisical, I can just push him around. Go out there and push him around. Like he lines up against you. And we've got to start doing more of that at the semi-pro level. We got to start coaching. So what? Guys don't show up to practice. So what? Have a practice schedule. Go to run plays. Bring the players there. Force them to be there. And this is another aspect. Like, if you want to bring up the quality of football that we have on the field, we've got to bring up the quality of football that we have on the field. So, a trap is just a simple way to get an offense moving. It's a great way to get 1 or 2 yards, especially in an overly aggressive defense. If you just think of what you're looking at right now, this defense has seen that running back cross the quarterback's face over and over again on a zone concept. They've seen the running back cross face. That defense is going to start to cheat to the left. All right, we know that this running back has to go to the left in order to get the ball. So as soon as the ball is snapped, they all cheat over. That defensive end starts coming down the line hard. That guard pulls and meets that defensive end unexpectedly. All of a sudden, the running back turns and goes the opposite direction. Defense is caught out of position. That H crack block is super important, though. If that H doesn't crack that wheel, he's right there to make the play. So just a cool thing to kind of look at and just analyze a little bit when it comes to semi-pro. Another play that we don't really see is on the defensive side. We don't really see cover 4 run too often in semi-pro. This would be considered like a Tampa 2. But the cover 4 look would basically look exactly the same as this, where the corners just go all the way up the field and that little box area, that little quarters area. We don't see this frequently. Because in order to run this defensive coverage, first of all, everybody has to be a great run stopper. That's number 1. Number 2, in order to run this effectively, you have to catch. You have to play catch defense in the passing game. Catch defense basically means that you allow the release, you allow the receiver to attack your zone, you catch that receiver in the zone, create contact, and then once you get contact, you kind of ride him through that zone. That's a very tough defense to play for guys that lack speed. And the fundamentals and the technical part of running the cover 4 is kind of missing at the semi-pro level. I've seen it run, but those coaches are very good coaches. They're able to communicate it very well. But it's a great defense. And if we saw a lot more of this at the semi-pro level, we would see a lot more great defenses. Right now, we see a lot of man coverage instead of cover 4. So the cover 4 look basically is like a blanket look. where we're playing both the run and pass at the same time, and that's what we're playing catch. If you run the ball, I haven't really moved. I can react to it. If you throw the ball, I've got a guy in every location on the field, and we're catching. So that window is going to be very tight. You're going to have to fit that ball in there. Receiver's going to have to make a great catch. Instead, at the semi-pro level, you see a lot of cover one or one safety high, kind of in support, and you got everybody taking their man, which is kind of a, if you think about the catch defense and you think about playing man coverage, it's very similar, right? I'm gonna make contact with this guy, I'm gonna get in his way, and then I'm gonna ride him through. Well, with the cover one, I'm sticking to him. With the cover four, I'm gonna ride him through to the next zone and push him off. That's the only difference. I think one of the reasons why we don't see this at the semi-pro level is just coaching, right? If we can coach it better, we could run this more often. It actually takes a lot of pressure off the defense. It will keep us from having so many blown coverages, especially in cover one. All it takes is for one guy to fall. All it takes is for one guy to be too slow. All it takes is for one receiver to be great, right? And now you got to double cover him or you're just going to get burnt. So this is another aspect of the game that we can kind of work on. I put out a post on Facebook, the playoff picture, right? The playoff picture is just what would the playoffs look like if it started today? And I put that out a couple days ago when I put out the new rankings. You got two conferences. The way that it was described, and we got a commissioner here, so he'll be able to talk about it. But the way it was described is from the north, you're going to get the top three teams. From the south, you're going to get the top three teams. The two number ones, they get a bye in the first week. The number two and number three from each side play each other. Whoever wins that game, they then play the number one. Whoever wins that game is the conference champions. And then they play for the championship, the league championship. Well, that's why when we were talking about the Chargers, right? The Chargers they have a better record, right? They have a better record than the Crusaders, overall record. I think they beat the main machine, so they have a conference win as well. Crusaders, I don't think they've beaten anybody in their conference. I think that one win that they have is against an outer league team. So overall, all in all, the Mass Chargers look like the better football team. I think that's also why they believe that they were in the playoffs and why they clinched the playoffs. But when you look at it, the Chargers are the worst team in their conference since the main machine dropped out. They wouldn't have made it. They're not better than the Bearcats. On the flip side, like I said, the Queens Huskies, they forfeited their last game. I think they might have forfeited their last two games. Not really sure. I think they might have just quit on the season. And there's no other teams. There's only 4 teams. So with the Huskies not in the conversation, the Crusaders just make it. And then you got the Patriots and you got the Falcons. That's the whole South. So the conversation kind of went to how the heck is this possible? We got our answer. Well, I was just shooting shit, right? I was just putting out an idea. I said, what if we did like the NFL does? So what the NFL does to try to always have the best talent in the playoffs, they do a wild card, right? And the wild card is not really about divisions. It's more about conferences and who has the best overall record out of the worst teams available. And then that team will challenge the team that basically would have made it in. And they play a wild card game. This is like a shoot shit game, right? This is your lucky chance to try to play your way in. So why don't we do the same thing and allow the Chargers to try to play their way in, since we have an uneven, kind of setup here. If you really look at it, we only have 7 teams to talk about, not really 8. The idea kind of caught on, but it's controversial as all hell. It really is. The Crusaders only play on Sundays. They can only get a permit for Sundays. They play in South Brooklyn. I mean, they're all the way in the bottom of Brooklyn, right? The Mass Chargers are way up in the Boston area. I mean, they're very far apart. So where do they play? And then when do they play? The only real free spot that we have for them is on Memorial Day weekend. We're drawn in on the summer, right? So we can't really push the entire playoff schedule back to complement this, we have a league bye week. So let's fit them in there. That's Memorial Day weekend. Are we really going to play on a Sunday on a weekend with a house? No. Can they get a feel for Saturday? No. So why don't we play at a neutral location? Okay, we'll set up the neutral location. They don't want to play at a neutral location. So it's just a lot to talk about. For everybody who doesn't know who this guy is one of the two leaders, owners, commissioners of the IFA. Dave also is, an owner and a coach of the New York Patriots. So he's going to basically help me clear up some of this confusion and talk about some of this nonsense and just have a football conversation. So
this is so absurd. I think guys just love to be confused. They just love to talk but the New York Patriots, if you read your history books, this is the latest edition, started to play independent football in 2016. And we traveled on an independent schedule. That's where the word independent came from. And as a result of us playing our independent schedule, we ran into a team up in Portland, Maine, because I wanted to have lobster with my football. So I found a guy by the name of Mason Morgan, who was on a team up there. I think it was the Notre Dame Cobras at the time. So we went up there to Portland. So in 2016, the New York Patriots were established because as part owner of the Bronx Colts, the Bronx Colts were moving out of the TFL as the two-time defending champion, and we're moving into the MLF. As a result, I told Al Chambliss, hey, look, I know I'm taking your champs out. Sean Kelman, big shout out to him. Charles Hutchinson and Brandon Davis, you guys know him online as King Davis Jr. I refuse to call him King, but whatever. They did an excellent job. We started that thing together. They built into a 5-time championship product, started the Pioneer League over it, where a lot of guys in the Brooklyn area and a lot of the superstars in semi-pro now trace their heritage in terms of football back to the Pioneer League. But I digress because everybody is talking about where we're getting players from. Like, they don't know that we were the supplier of the thing since day one. But nonetheless, we put the Patriots in the TFL to replace the Colts. It was only supposed to be a 1-year thing, just to keep the TFL afloat because they were teetering. One of the teams was the Crusaders. Another one of the teams was the Bobcats. Bobcats were an original Pioneer team, and we were building with young developing teams. Cool. So after the TFL started to cater to basically all-star teams of players that were looking to warm up for their summer season, we said, you know what, we're really not about that. I'd rather do something different. So we came up with the idea of traveling and doing an independent schedule. In fact, the guy that actually convinced me to do it was Leonard Gunnell, Big Leo, number 99. I know everybody knows who that is. Yeah. So we ended up traveling. And in 2017, when we talk about traveling, and mind you, nobody in the North has gone to the South for a game. Correct me if I'm wrong. Not a single one went from the North and traveled to the South. So you got to sit this one out and just be quiet on this one. Yeah. The South, we made the trips. Now, we weren't successful. We didn't get the job done, but we made the trips. Year one of us traveling, let me see. We played Brass City Kings up in Connecticut. Oh, we went to Canada to play a game.
I heard about that.
Yeah, we lost that one. It was a heartbreaker. The goalpost was in the middle of the field. Fucked us up. But anyway, August 20th at Notre Dame Cobras in Portland, Maine. New York Patriots 2017 against the Notre Dame Cobras. Me and Mason, first time we played. Patriots win 34-0 in Portland, Maine. We played the Southwest Connecticut Grizzlies. We played Johnson and Wales University up in Rhode Island.
Oh, okay.
That was year one for us. We did it. Johnson and Wales. Yeah, they had a club team up there. So everybody who's chatting about traveling and stuff, we've been doing since 2017. 2018 at Maine Wolverines. That was the second time I played Mason. That was his Wolverine squad. In Maine, year two, beat them 22-0.
22-0.
Hartford Colts 12-10 win up in Hartford, Connecticut. Good team, by the way. Whaling City Admirals. That was a great team. We lost to them in New Bedford. Now, mind you, this is, for some of you guys, this would be a career travel. This is just one season. New Bedford, Massachusetts. Providence, Rhode Island. We took on that Rhode Island Cowboys team. That was a pretty good team, by the way.
That was a good team.
Very good team.
Yeah.
Went to Canada again that year. Oh, I'm sorry. We went to Canada July 28th and August 5th. We did back-to-back games in Canada. So we went to, let me get this right, Tres Rivières, Quebec. Came home. And then the following weekend, we went to St. Catharines, Ontario, and back.
Ontario
does this. Why? And then we went North Haven, Connecticut. That was 2018. 2019. I'm just going to give it to you one by one. Notice how I'm not saying New York.
Right.
Week 1. Oh, we played the Mount Vernon Bangers. They got us 24-14. Great game, by the way. Week 2 at Wolverines in Portland, Maine. That was the first time Mason beat me. Came back home for the Nobles of the Smoke Bowl, beat the Crusaders. At the East Mass Gators in West Roxbury, Massachusetts. The next week, we were in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania the next week. Then we were back in West Roxbury the next week. Then we were in Charleston area, Boston the following week. Then we were in Lewiston, Maine 2 weeks later. Came home for the Huskies. Then went to Canada. Then the following week in the following week, beat the Central Maine Bucks to win the championship. And then after winning the championship, we had to play Williamson Trade School. They were big. They were a freaking huge team in Philadelphia. That's one season.
That's a lot of travel.
2020, COVID. Again,
COVID. Okay, let's hear this. Let's hear this.
In Connecticut against the Thundercats. We did back-to-back to the Thundercats going up there.
Good team.
Then we went to the Maine Machine, to the Connecticut Brawlers, Jamaica Plain, Maine Machine in Connecticut, the Mass Mercen. I'm sorry. Went up to Jamaica Play again, and then Maine Machine for the championship in New Hampshire.
That's 6 games and COVID.
In COVID year, COVID shortened year. Did more traveling than some of y'all ever have. So what are we talking about? So now all these guys that never did it are going to tell you how to do it and have all these opinions. But anyway, but I will say this. So there was a couple of lower tier teams that I said, you know what? This could be a good single A or double A, whatever you want to call it, second tier teams. And instead of just allowing them to fail and not giving them any help, I'll tell you what, I'll help them out. I put startup money into the Maine Machine. I helped them out.
That's big.
Jamaica Plains Huskies. That's my guy. People don't even know the owner's real name. Because the year before, I'm not sure if you remember, they were doing home and homes across the board at ECFL.
Yeah, I remember that.
And the swing between home game and away game was about 30 points a clip. So if you won 60-0, when you went to them, you won 30-0. If you won, by 15 points, and that was the year that I think the Cowboys ended up upsetting whoever the 1 seed was because it was a road game and there was a lot of travel involved. So I said, I'll tell you what, I'll give up all home games. You don't got to come to me. I'll go all up to y'all. But if I go up to you, I'm not playing the AAA guys, or I say AAA. Just give me those bottom teams, and I'll give them all home games, and we'll compete for a second division championship. Winning the championship in the first year, cool, got it. Second year, we rolled out, keep those teams together, and now I'm looking for more teams to kind of build the thing, just like we're building with the IFA now. Year 1, great job. Everything was done. Everybody had a hand in it. Even the Jamaica Plains Huskies hosted it because they were the geographic center of the league. That's why the championship game was in Boston. Had a great time. The whole league supported whatever. So now the next year, I'm like, well, who can we find? What do we got? So I'll clarify in terms of rules and processes and stuff like that. But ultimate decision, especially about stuff like the Cardinals game, I don't handle that because I don't have the temperament for it. So we literally just carried the IFA, the independent conference of the ECFL, which the Patriots were champions year one. We pulled out midway through year two and made the IFA championship, which the main machine won in year two, and then expanded more year three. That's when, here's the funny thing, who started the Bearcats? Right, that was me and Mason. So guess what? Startup money into the Bearcats. Who was that? That was me too. Bearcats win the championship in year three. Now, mind you, my Patriot guys, my bad, because I know 3 times in a row, we're going to get this thing this year. We'll be back. But nonetheless, now year 4, expansion. And now we have teams that are coming around from all places, right? My brother Taiwan with the Crusaders, we've been playing him since 2015. No problem. So that's how the independent Patriots turned into the independent conference of the ECFL, designed for travel because the only one traveling was us. Now, the teams that joined wanted to kind of, oh, well, the Patriots are doing it. And dudes talk real reckless about the Patriots. And I tell my guys to chill. Everything that went wrong. I've had vans break down. I've had buses overheat. I've had doors on buses open up while we're going. I've had hotel issues. I've had all types of shit. And it's fun as hell, and that's why we enjoy doing it. But that's the heritage thing. So when a player especially sits there and goes, we should do this, we should do that. The reason why I'm so short with it is if you if you understand the history of the league and what the purpose of the league is, then you wouldn't be so quick to be like, we should do this. How come we don't do this? I'm gonna spend 28 grand on a season. Anybody ever, some of these dudes, 28 grand is.
Yo, if they had, hold on, if they had 28 grand, it wouldn't be going to the football team.
That's my hobby is 28 grand.
The city, it changes a lot drastically. There's other issues, but they're different issues totally. Well, so here's my thing though. My only issue I've ever had with the Sunday games was the timing. I feel like it's kind of messed up.
You see me right now? You see me right now? We played the Cardinals in Massachusetts, 7 p.m. on a Saturday. I got in my door at 3 a.m., 3:30 a.m. So you're telling me you can't do a Sunday afternoon?
So my thing is like,
you had a team from New York coming for a 7 p.m. kick?
Why not 4 o'clock? Why are you doing a 1 o'clock when the team is 5 hours away on a Sunday?
I'll take the blame on behalf of the league. We need to say, just like most leagues do, 5-star included, you can play your home games from Saturday, 12 noon, kickoff to 8 p.m. On Sunday, from 12 noon to 4 p.m. or whatever it is. If you are traveling cross-conference, these are the times that you can schedule to allot for travel. Anything outside of that has to be agreed to by both owners. That's usually the standard language. We do not have that language in the rules. Essentially, Mason has left it to the team. Because, by the way, the teams in the IFA, the owners have very good relationship with one another.
7 o'clock en masse is 3.5 hours away. We got to go back home, right? On a Saturday, that's still kind of tough. Why we didn't play at 5?
Dude, when you're dealing with people's home games, especially in the sticks, that is a money-generating thing. And in the city, I can't tell SUNY Maritime, hey, I know that sometimes SUNY Maritime tells me, yo, all we got is Sunday at 5 o'clock. And that's what the fuck it's going to be. And again,
That's different, though, because you're talking about a state university field. So as a player of an opposing team, if you guys say, yo, we're going to play on Sunday at 1 o'clock, as a player, I would be like, okay, that's probably because they have all these other games happening on that field. But if you play at a park,
then it's going to start ridiculous debates about what's a valid excuse and what's not. So that's why you either can do it or you can't do it. One of the two. That's it. The debate is what kills it. So now here's the thing, and this is the can of worms that you opened up. So now you're right. So now you're talking about the Crusaders versus the Chargers and the Chargers. So why did the Chargers know the rule? Why didn't the Chargers know what the playoff format was?
I think they assumed. I think they just said, "Oh, we got the
They
better
assumed
record."
that something in writing was not correct. That doesn't make sense. Try again.
Maybe they wanted to bully their way in.
That's possibly it. Okay. So now you said you were alluding to, and by the way, there were some other people alluding it too, that the Chargers are the better team. This is a good conversation. You think the Chargers are a better team than the Crusaders?
I played both teams, in my opinion. Yes.
Beautiful. Okay, so let me tell you this. Hold on. Let's go by some facts. Okay. Crusaders, they have 2 wins, correct? They'll have
Yeah.
they'll have a forfeit win over the Cardinals if that, again, this Patterson opinion, right? So they'll have a forfeit win over the Cardinals and a win on the field versus the Huskies. Now
Didn't they beat the Reapers too?
I left that part out because we're only dealing with
I count anything that happens during the season.
the
So if they play
Crusaders.
the
The
Reapers,
Crusaders didn't play the Reapers.
they didn't play the Reapers. They played the Huskies.
Correct.
Okay.
So they lost at the Falcons.
Yeah.
At the Falcons. Now here's the thing: you're used to semi-pro where everybody's in the same neighborhood. We agreed that the road is a 30-point swing, correct?
Yes, sir. We got to go see them this Sunday.
Well, now here's the thing: if you're gonna say in terms of, that's why I told you PowerPoints, the road had, to me, is a monster enough that you have to factor that in on which team is the better team, because you're not evaluating a team based on what they look like at your place. You're basically looking like the college model of what they're like on a neutral field with all of their guys, or at
Yeah.
least the semi-pro version of all your guys, a full squad, right?
Yeah.
So of course you would say, so where did you play the Chargers?
At home.
At home. The distance from the Chargers to you?
Not that bad. It's far, but not that bad.
Right. Crusaders coming up to you, getting through Brooklyn.
It's tough. The traffic factors.
Right. So, of course, you said that you saw both teams, but what did you really see both teams?
So here's the only thing. I have kind of a better purview because I played in the TFL too, and I know a lot of the guys that were missing. So I played against them too.
Okay.
And just the quality of what I played against on the field.
But wait.
Also, hold on. Also, I got to caveat that because
Okay.
it was well known that was the best Chargers team that they had put together all season.
Okay. Now, also, do I have to go back to love the Chargers? By the way, love those guys. So I'm not
Same
comparing anybody's teams, but
love the Crusaders too. No lie. I love the way that they operate as a team.
Indeed.
Really
So, but let's talk about the North for a second, okay? If the North played by the rules when it came to uniformity and had to take those guys off, any guys off the field that weren't in uniform, what do the scores look like?
They're a lot tighter.
Okay, there you go. So play by the rules on the field.
You had said something to me, and I agree. I try not to talk about it too much, but I'm gonna kind of lay out something. We played the Virginia Rampage. Connecticut Falcons. We played them at home and beat them. We played the Mount Vernon Bangers at home and beat them. We went to the Green Wave and the Bronx and lost embarrassingly. A lot of the teams that we played, we beat. The only team that we traveled to, and we had a decent game, but it was a battle, was you guys at SUNY Maritime. And I think one of the things that helped us travel to that game was the fact that we played at SUNY Maritime. So all the guys wanted to go play on the college field.
Gotcha. So next time we play, it'll be at Williamsbridge Oval.
Don't do that. Can't even see the lines. But if the Warhawks came to the Falcons, if the Warhawks go to SUNY Maritime,
right,
they're gonna have a tough time.
And
if the Cardinals go to SUNY Maritime, they might lose that game.
Right, and mind you, we lost to you guys by a center snap by our third string center.
2 points.
No offense.
2 points. Center snapped the ball over the guy's head.
The third string center. National rankings that you guys absolutely have embraced, which I like. I'm not gonna poop. I'm not gonna do all that. The national rankings don't know who most of the teams are, and they don't even factor in who was home, who was away. They just see a score, right or wrong.
Right, and that's one of the reasons why I talk about it every show, because there are teams that aren't even trying to participate in it, and this is how we bring the connectivity. This is one of the ways, playing each other.
So back to the Crusaders versus the Chargers. Okay, so you have Crusaders. Let me get this right. 2 wins, 1 on the field. Got it.
Right.
And then 3 losses. Let's talk about those 3 losses for a second.
3 losses. Okay.
Crusaders 3 losses at the Falcons. That's a tough game, and that's a 1 seed. So they lost to a 1 seed, right? The second one was a loss to the Bearcats.
That's a tough team.
Up there. Okay?
That's a trip.
20-0, making the trip. Bus broke down in the whole bit. Okay? And then their third loss was to us by 2 points. And keep in mind, they lost to us, and our only 2 losses are to the 2 number 1 seeds in the dance. Which, by the way, again, I will never poo-poo your rankings. Never. And I stay, I'm like, But I'm looking at it, I'm like, we lost to the 2 1 seeds, and we're all the way down here under the Bearcats. How?
You want me to explain it? I'll explain it really quickly. It's a modified version of the BCS number system, right? And it was hard as hell to get information on how they do this.
Mhm.
But basically what happens is you get allotted points based on who I think you are at the beginning of the season. That's why you guys were ranked pretty high. And then it's all about how many games you play, how many buys you have, and the
Right.
strength of schedule. And it also takes into account how many points you score and how many points you allow.
Let me stop you there. Strength of schedule has to include travel.
And I will admit, and I said this to you, that system didn't pull in whether you went there or not outside of top 25 teams.
We
So
lost.
I didn't include it simply because when I first did the numbers, it created such a dichotomy from the top to the bottom that I was like, let's just say that the Crusaders get hot midway through the season and they win 3 games back to back. If I do it this way, there's no way they can get back in the conversation.
Gotcha.
The
So I'm
points
sitting
have
there looking
spread
at
out
this.
so far.
We lost to the 2 1 seeds, and
Right.
we lost to the second 1 seed at their place by a touchdown in the last 2 minutes of the game. So that's why in many of those polls, there definitely is a human element that says, wait a minute.
Yeah. I mean, so when I look at the Bearcats, right, they've got 1 game on you. No, they don't. They've got 3 wins, 1 loss. So what ends up happening is
But who did they beat?
they didn't beat anybody. But what ends up happening is if they scored a certain amount of points, which they did on a couple teams, they get extra points, right? And because you guys play a tougher schedule than they do,
Much tougher.
they got these bonus points. And I mean, that's also the reason why the Warhawks have so many points. The Warhawks beat up on some bad teams badly. They beat up on them so badly
and at home
that they were getting like 400 points a game. Like it was like pushing them way up there.
Because they're at home.
They're at home.
Against
There's things that I gotta, and like I told you, as soon as I get some time, I'm gonna factor in how much of a difference it makes when you add in they played at home, they played on the road.
And I think we agreed that's a 30-point swing on average.
I agree.
So here's the thing. That was the Crusaders' resume. So their 3 losses, one of them is to Patriots, one is to the Bearcats, all the way up there, and the other one is to the 1 seed Falcons at the Falcons. Those are 3 losses that you're not sitting there going, damn. Now I know you all put 41 on them, but again, loss is loss.
Loss is a loss.
Right. Now here's the thing. Charge. 2 wins. One of them is a forfeit win to the Huskies. So they didn't even get on the field. Now, would they have beat the Huskies? Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know, whatever. Oh,
Maybe.
let me ask you this, though. Do the Charge beat the Huskies in Queens?
All right, so we played the Huskies too. Week 1 Huskies and week 5 Huskies, 2 different teams.
Absolutely.
Week 1 Huskies beat the Charge. Doesn't matter where they play.
Right.
Week 5 Huskies lose to the Charge on the road, might beat them at home.
It would be a game. It absolutely would be a game, right? Okay, cool. So what really caused the Huskies distress this year?
I don't know because when we played them, we beat them 26-zip,
It
but we
was
only beat them
it was the
26-zip.
2 interconference games where they had to go up north. That's what killed them.
I was gonna say that. All of a sudden, like a few weeks later, they were just a totally different team.
It was the scheduling that killed them. That's what killed them. But again, they wanted to do it. A lesson learned, because I guess again the Patriots do it. So how
We
hard
can
can
do
it
it
be?
too.
And then they tried to do it. They tried to do it twice. They pulled it off once, and then the second one they couldn't. And then it just kind of fizzled from there. By the way, talk about the main machine closing up operations, folded, blah 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 blah. They missed one game. Okay, I mean, you could call it fold, whatever, whatever, whatever. They missed one game, and there were other teams that missed one game too. So I don't think it's absolutely fair to talk about the main machine the way that people are talking about the main machine. They
Not
played,
fair at all. That's
yeah,
a solid football team.
indeed, and they could have taken an off week, and they picked up the Warhawks on an off week to get that game from the last week to get played earlier. No problem. I got no problem with them. So in fact, if you could, for me, put their number back instead of the dash.
Close.
They got 5
Okay.
teams in, so like, there's no need to disrespect those guys.
I wasn't trying to.
Yeah,
Sorry.
understood. Put their number back, even if it's a not, even if they're ranked last, they're still part of the league. And unlike other leagues, we value the last place team just as much as the first place team.
And that's why I didn't, by the way, that's why I didn't put fold. That's why I didn't say booted. That's why I didn't remove them from the rankings. I personally love the Mean Machine. I watched a lot of film on them. I like that group of guys. I like what they got up there.
And they were in uniform
all the time. Every time I seen them.
Indeed. So the Charge. So let's talk about the Charge. And by the way, love the Charge too. So this is not a poo-pooing on the Charge. Forfeit win against the Huskies. They beat the Machine. So they beat the only win that they have on the field is against the last place team in the whole entire league. Okay. Right. Now let's look at their losses. Now they have a pretty impressive loss to the Bearcats, 12-6. However, that's like a divisional game. Like, even though the New York Giants suck, if they're playing against the Cowboys, they kind of look like a professional football team, even though the Giants are really incompetent and can't play football much at all, right? So I look at that as not to say that the Bearcats, that the Charge were so great, but it was more like the original four. Like, I don't know how many people watch hockey, but like one of the Frozen Four, like those original teams. So they had some history there, and they played a good, solid game. But then you look at the other ones. They lost to the Falcons 20-0. They lost to the Cardinals 34-0. And then they lost to the Warhawks 49-0. That's like 100-0 in 3 games.
Yeah.
That's a better playoff resume? That's what you just said.
So my opinion on the Charge is that they started off poorly and then they kind of caught a little rhythm. That's how I feel. I feel like about 3 weeks ago, they caught a little rhythm. It started with us. They gave us fits. It was 14-0 in the fourth quarter.
103-0 in 3 games.
Just saying. They gave us fits. And they went on to win a couple games. But so I know you don't count the Reapers. I know they play the Reapers. They beat them. I give them credit for that. It happens during the season.
Okay.
For me, it counts.
Okay, I got it.
And then they did.
By the way, the Crusaders played a very good PD squad, or it was a
surely they played a great PD squad. They played a great.
So again, no disrespect to either one of them, but that's why I would say if you were debating, it definitely is a debate. It's not like, oh my God, the Charge.
Not clear cut.
Yeah, it's not like the Charge were robbed of it. It would be fantastic if there was okay, now we're going to have a play-in game, whatever. But how do you have a play-in game with guys that far down the ranking, and now you force somebody to travel?
So that's why I said wild card game, and that's why I said neutral place.
But that's the way. Again, nobody successfully traveled in season. So now you're asking to not follow the rules. That's why we structured it the way that we did. We knew that by that time, teams would be tapped out, and the region is the way to get to the chip. So that's why we planned it that way. Now, besides that, let's talk about fairness, by the way. The North had a really, really easier road than the South. So everybody's talking about the Warhawks and the Cardinals. And don't get me wrong, they're good, very good teams. But you're disrespecting the South. You didn't do nothing. You didn't travel like the South did.
No, they did not.
And because we had one less team, because the Connecticut, the Venom, I really want to see the Venom go too. That would have been I do, as much as me and Booker are at each other's throats, throughout the last 15 years, whatever. On occasion, I love the Venom program. I love what he does for those guys. I would have loved to see that as the balance or whatever. But the schedule
Yeah.
wasn't balanced, so you can't say record to record that it's fair because one side traveled, the other one didn't. So that's why you give 3 playoff spots to the South and 3 to the North. And by the way, next year, and I've had this conversation in the owners chat, the North has got to do something next year. Like they gotta travel next year. We have to cater to the South teams next year because the South teams took a lot of lumps for no good fucking reason this year.
A lot of lumps. And like I like the main machine, but there was a lot of mutual location games,
Yeah,
and it wasn't in benefit of the Southern teams.
right.
So, okay, my only thing was that that's tough. So, like looking at it from a player's perspective, if I'm playing on that Chargers team, and we're in the huddle and we're talking about, listen, we got to get 3 wins. We got to get 3 wins. We got to get 2 wins. We got to outplay the Crusaders. And you outplay them, and then you're sitting at home simply because the Cardinals played basically nobody except for the Warhawks and won that game by 1 point. The Warhawks are a good football team, and the Bearcats only really played the Warhawks. So that's why we're sitting at home.
No, they're
That's
sitting
kind
at
of
home.
messed up.
They're sitting at home because they're not one of the top 3 teams in the region, and it's a very big region. That's the reason why. Having nothing to do with the South.
But here was the other side too. So looking at it outside of being a player, I was saying the Crusaders got to play the Patriots, and they got to play them at SUNY Maritime. I don't care what they bring; they're not winning that game. I'm sorry, I don't care what they bring. I don't think they're winning that game. I don't care what they show up with.
I mean, they're the 3 seed. We're the 2 seed. On paper, we should win. However, it was a 2-point game. It came literally down to a 2-point conversion with no time.
Yeah, but you guys were in Brooklyn. Now it's the other way around. And I went to SUNY Maritime, so I know what that field is like. That's a tough environment to play in. It's a tough environment.
And we earned the right to play there by handling business with the 2 New York teams.
The way I see it is also it's an opportunity for these 2 bottom tier teams. I really don't even want to call them bottom tier because they're actually good football teams. But it's a chance for one of these 2 teams to actually get a playoff win on their resume. So as opposed to a 0-1 playoff record, now you might have a 1-1 playoff record. So I like that idea too.
But you can't manufacture that. You got what I'm saying? And again, the Charge did a very good job this year. They were very impressive, especially once they got their uniforms in. But here's what ends up happening, and you've seen this, by the way. You've seen some times where the MLF have had teams with losing, like damn near had 0 wins get into the playoffs.
I was one of those teams.
There you go. There you go. So, I mean, I appreciate the debate, and the debate is always great. So I will never shut off debate. However, I will say that just understand that if people, what gets me, and this is why some of I call them the semi-pro Wendy Williams, all the guys that chime in with half-witted stuff that it's not really well thought out, is if it's been done before, just think it out first and use some logic. And then ask, was it done before and how did it work out? And again, there's a lot of leagues that have let too many teams into the playoffs.
Tip. Ooh.
and that's what we. That's what
I know where I was going with that.
You have to have some sit out. And again, now let me ask you this as well: if the Venom were in, and the Venom were. The Crusaders had 1 more win, and it was against the Venom, and everything else kind of stacked out. And it was Falcons, Patriots, Crusaders, Venom, Huskies. Would you feel better then?
I would, and I would also feel better if the main machine didn't announce that they closed operation, right? They didn't say, okay, we're done for the year. The main machine was still in the conversation. I also feel better. I feel a lot better. I feel a
Okay.
lot better.
So even if you take the main machine, actually, no, I don't want to take the main machine out. But if you were to take the main machine out, then you're literally talking about 2 4-team conferences, right?
Right,
So just knock whoever's at the bottom out, and you got your 3, and you move on. That's what it
right.
is.
So I think one of the things that that's kind of something I was talking about. Like the Huskies, although they didn't announce like, all right, we're done, it showed by their actions as an organization. Like
Because
they
they wouldn't travel 200 miles for a
yeah,
game.
they
That's
said, you know what, we're done. That's it, we're done.
you would have more of a point if everybody played the same home games and away games. Now I don't give a damn what you say. If Vanderbilt plays against a team from like the MEAC, no disrespect to the MEAC,
They're
but
going
Vanderbilt.
they're gonna tear them up.
Okay, so the Huskies went through the hardest of all, you know, battering rams.
Yeah.
So their record was not indicative of what kind of football team that they were.
And I've said that if you read my write-ups, I've always said that the Huskies have a good team. It was tough that they started with us in Connecticut.
Right.
Like that was a big game for us, especially after the loss to the Green Wave. Like we had a chip on our shoulder, and they kind of caught the brunt of that. And then having to travel even further after that, back to back.
Right. Now,
That was
if
critical.
everybody had to do that, and then everybody's records were like around 500, because just like the Huskies are traveling, then have somebody travel to the Huskies, even if you had to do it, somewhere else in New York or Liberty or whatever like that.
They could probably play in New Rochelle. That's not a bad trip for them, and
Right.
that's a hell of a trip for a team from Mass.
That much is true. So they never got those type of matchups to put on their resume. Again, the Patriots too, and you said it, you're like they're a very dangerous 2-2 team, just like we were in 2019 when we won the IFA in 2019. We were the 3 seed. We weren't the 1 seed. We were a huge
Well,
underdog.
you know what you guys remind me of, and the colors are the same. You guys remind me of those early 2010 New York Giants that kept knocking my 10-6 Falcons out the playoffs first round
Yep.
because they were a lot better than people thought they were with a 7-8 record or a 7-9 record, and they still made it in.
Indeed. And that's why we do the things that we do. And by the way, again, we're stepping on the field with the Brooklyn Seminoles this week, which is definitely not the easiest of tasks. So the reason why we do it, ironically, and I was telling the guys this today because a couple of guys were like, this is gonna be a tough matchup. I said, well, yeah, but in 2019 we played a team called the Westmoreland Wolves out in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They, I mean, they kicked the dog shit out of us. But again, we went to Pittsburgh.
That's
Oh,
far.
yeah,
I've taken that drive.
yeah, their third string line. Their smallest guy was about 260, 275, like smallest guy on the line. So we played till the final whistle. We got our face kicked in. We came home and then we ran off a bunch of games because whenever we would run into a challenge, even as a 3 seed, we would say, "Hey, it can't be worse than the motherfucker."
And if you think about teams, even in the Big Ten, you think about some teams like Northwestern, how they used to be. That team would get pounded on by Nebraska and Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State, but then they go and play Texas Tech and they beat the crap out of them. Why?
Yeah, or they go to
Because
one of
that's a
those
good football team.
yeah, when they go to one of these bowl games and then they hang a big number on one of these teams, they're like, wait a minute, that was a 5-win team, a 6-win. Yeah, that's
Because
you learn that.
the task that I took on was, whew.
By the way, that was a good team that you played on. I mean, it was money well spent for the person that bought it. But
Well, listen, I didn't take a dime. I do it because I love that guy. But we'll talk about that when that show airs. I was going to pose this question. You talked about travel, and I'm just going to put that out there that I was one of those guys that said, well, if you're in the IFA and you join this league, you should have been prepared to travel because I've always known the Patriots going back to when I played for Mount Vernon and in the TFL, and I played with Jerome Bailey. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm on the Patriots." And I'm like, "What are you?" And they kind of talked about it. And they're like, "Yeah, we travel and we play all over the place." So, and I know the foundations of the IFA loosely. And I was like, "Well, the Patriots are a travel team. If you're joining any league headed by the Patriots, you should be prepared to travel, right?"
Nope.
But that's not necessarily the case, right? And you kind of correct me.
Because we had always come to them.
So one of the things that I posed a question was travel is a necessity of football. It's actually one of the great things of football. It's fun. And when you do it the right way and you get the logistics right, you have a great time. It's a ball. But should games over 4 hours away be played any earlier than 4 p.m.?
Games should be played based on teams having home field. The home team decides when the game is. It should be reasonable, but it can't be a negotiation process. Otherwise, it turns into a shit show. That's my short answer. The longer version of the answer is travel is not necessarily part of the IFA. It is an option in the IFA because we do not have a completely balanced schedule. And thankfully, we do have stronger teams that are willing to do traveling, and some more inexperienced teams that are like, you know what, I could take a travel game. Now, this year, one of the things that we have to work on is when a team that we know has a resume that they probably can't do it, for us to step in and say, okay, slow it down. I know that you're willing to do this, but you know what? We're gonna know better than what you got, and we're only gonna give you this or that.
Right.
But again, it wasn't out of necessity. Everybody got what they asked for. The teams that wanted to travel got travel games. Teams that wanted no parts of traveling, they didn't tell their players, but they were very clear. I don't want to travel,
Okay.
and we
So
accomplished.
one of the challenges is that I think back to when I played Pop Warner, even in high school. If we traveled over a certain distance, we stayed in a hotel. Even as kids, as children, we stayed in hotels. But in the semi-pro level, there's so much personal responsibility and personal liability. There's very few teams that will say, "Hey, we got to travel. Let's get a hotel," unless you're like 10 hours away. If it's a 6 hour game, they're going to be like, "Hey, let's get a bus. If guys don't get the bus, well, get to the field, you know?"
Right.
And I think one of the things that will help, especially just I didn't just travel in the IFA for some background. Last year, at the end of the ECFL, I went and joined the Hudson Valley Mountaineers. We were in the IFL, and we were traveling from northern New York all the way down to Philadelphia like every other week. We were playing in Philly and South Jersey every other week. And even for me to get to our home field was a 2 hour trip from Connecticut to
Gotcha.
get to our home field. So I was traveling every week. Um, we played mostly at night. We played mostly at 5 p.m. or 7 p.m. that entire league. And we never had an issue with teams showing up. We never had an issue with guys showing up. In the spring, when we have these long travel games, it's not just my team. I've seen all teams. 4 p.m. kickoffs, 2 p.m. kickoffs, half the team doesn't show up. Mount Vernon Binger said half our guys didn't show up. We could tell you on a number of occasions that we traveled, half our team didn't show up. Cardinals didn't even show up. They tried to negotiate and force an argument. The machine said, "All right, we're done." The Huskies said, "We can't do it anymore." And I'm noticing that a lot of teams are playing these early games for these long distance travels, and it's tough. So is that one of the factors, or is it deeper than that? Is it that in the IFL we were playing like high 2A, 3A ball, and these teams were well put together and well ran? Because I will say that.
What worked really effective for us, which we got away from because we were catering to a few teams that actually didn't even get to the final roster of teams, ironically, was that we've always had an open window of dates. We took like, I think it was like 8 to 10 weekends and said, hey, look, you have to play these opponents. You can even schedule them yourselves, and then we'll lock in the rest. and then you could do some interleague games, you could do some crossover games, whatever it is that you want to do. And that's how I ended up with a schedule that looked like what you heard when we started
Right.
this conversation, right? When we got away from that, then it's more of a, hey, you're locked in. You got to do X, Y, and Z. The reason why I like the old format was when we were independent football conference in the ECFL, it would start out with like 6 or 8 teams, and then like 2 wouldn't make it to the starting line. And then I would know, you know what, this particular team, like the Boston Pirates, for example, which Boston Pirates, anytime you get them after the month of May, they're not gonna play. But I would always get them in May because I knew what was up. So I would get those games like the Maine, I forgot, Southern Maine Beavers or like all these other teams. I would schedule them early and then play the powerhouse teams in the middle to try to get ready for the playoffs.
Right.
If we ever got back to that, I think it would be hugely successful. But then we're running into the summer leagues, and then it's I got a summer league team, blah blah blah. And for that, it affects a lot of teams. It doesn't necessarily affect my team because, again, if you look at the history of it, this is the one year that I'm not playing football 10 out of 12 months of the year.
Yeah. It's affecting the Falcons. I can see it affecting the Cardinals. Just knowing what they have on their roster. It's definitely affecting us already.
Right.
The ECFL hasn't even started yet, and we're already seeing guys kind of disappear and not show up to practices because they have other practices.
Yeah, the biggest duty, the biggest issue with double duty and triple duty or whatever is not that guys want to play so much football. Again, I'm playing sometimes 2 games in the freaking weekend, which is fucking insane. But it's just that too many guys, not you, will just abandon. It's like they're hedging their bets because it's all about winning a championship. So, I got my card in at 5 different places, and as soon as this one is eliminated, I stop showing up, and then I stop showing up to that. And that if everybody actually did the duty that they signed up for, no problem. But when they announce everywhere that they're playing, I wish there was a board where it was how many teams the player played on and how many games they actually showed up to.
Semi-Pro Players Association. Yeah. We need it. We're gonna talk about that soon. We need it.
You know what you need? Like one of the those car wash cards. Like whenever you go get a car wash, it literally should be. You should get a stamp for attending games. Now again, I'm not going to talk about you if you're actually doing double duty. But if you're a double duty player or triple duty player and you only show up for 3 games or 2 games or what have you, then you're really not. You're just duty. You're not double duty.
You're not double duty.
Yeah, it's bad.
All right, so let's go to the next topic, right? So the next topic is really like the quality of football, right? So I want to talk about our game in particular, right? And the question is, the Falcons were missing a large number of players in this game against the Warhawks. This is something that is seen repeatedly in semi-pro when you travel over a certain distance, and it really varies. Some teams can travel up to 5 hours before they start seeing guys drop off. Some teams can't even travel an hour before they start seeing guys drop off.
Right.
Is this just a factor of semi-pro? Is this just a way of life that we have to accept?
You have to. If we're playing in Maine, we'll have 40 guys, 45 guys, and that's also why it's funny to me when people say, "Oh, the Patriots stacked up," or the Patriots, added players. We didn't add players at the start of the season. We have a 65-man roster. That's why I play, and that's the other funny thing is that everybody's talking about like to be the best, you got to beat the best. How come you don't play the Seminoles, even though we're playing them this week? How come you don't? You're single A or double A. I'm giving up a fucking 3-hour trip. I've played AAA.
I know your roster. I'm going to tell everybody you have a AAA roster.
Right.
I know your roster.
But any
AAA
roster. You've seen the Shamrocks. You've seen the Seminoles. You've seen the Rebels. Let them go 3 hours. Let them go 4 hours. The Seminoles tripped up in Pennsylvania last year. That's how they had the tie on their record. That wasn't at Kings Bay. It was in Pennsylvania. So, like, again, when you look at it, Whaling City, you know that it's a great team.
Yeah.
We don't shy away from competition. I'm not going to you and playing a AAA team if it's 5 hours away. Not if I have no possibility of a home game, and that's why the ECFL and
MLS merger kind of thing.
it wasn't a merge. ECFL has their schedule. Nobody in the ECFL wants to come down here. They don't. I know because when we were shopping the Gators around, we went to the meeting and I said, I could bring the Gators in. Who's coming to Harlem?
And Harlem is not even that bad.
Right. We're not even talking about getting across to Brooklyn.
Or Long Island or deep in Long Island.
Yeah. So nobody said anything. So then later on, somebody chirps up in one of the freaking forums, the Gators don't, we'll travel. Everybody will travel when it's on Facebook. But when you're face to face in the middle of the banquet hall up in New Hampshire and you say, hey, who will come to us? Because I can't think about that, especially if you're.
The ECFL needs that too. The ECFL needs the Gators. They need the Seminoles. They need some of these top New York teams in that league.
But it won't work because you automatically are giving the Seminoles 5 wins because the Seminoles will have 5 home games and nobody show up to
that. Change their work schedules so that they can play football on the weekends. And they were clowning dudes. They were like, oh man, semi-pro's never that serious. You gonna miss out on money to go play a football game. And for me, I'm a true football player and work your schedule out to be at practice and to be at a game. It's just as important as each other. If football is not that important, don't step on the field. You're not a football player.
Right.
Don't play flag football. This ain't for you.
I hate them. I really do. And here's the
thing.
And
that's self-sabotage. Like you said, you're self-sabotaging the product.
Yep.
Because then when somebody says, man, we would give you $1 million sponsorship for your league, but it's not a quality product. You guys aren't playing high enough football. Those would be the same guys talking about, man, but we nice. We good. We like that. Like, what they talking about?
Yeah,
but at the same time,
you guys know the guys that leave teams and then there's not enough players to play games. Y'all know who those players are. And every year, those players will post another jersey, announce